Broadcasting from the crypt. Welcome to Velvet Bite Radio.
You've entered Velvet Bite Radio, my friends, where the undead speak and the forgotten bite back. I'm your host, Melissa Dawn Harris, writer, researcher, and devoted wanderer through vampire folklore, history, and film. Each week, we descend into the crypt of culture to uncover the myths, monsters, and meaning behind the vampire's eternal allure. So pour a glass, dim the lights, and let's begin. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I see there's a few of you already tuning in. We are at Velvet Bite Radio, and in this episode, of course, we're exploring the topic that sits at the crossroads of folklore, conspiracy, and cultural symbolism. The idea that elite blood rituals and are connected to this kind of vampiric myth of adrenochrome. And if you know anything about what adrenochrome has to do with modern power structures, you might be very interested in this show. So I encourage you guys to stream on in. Tap that subscribe button, tap that thumbs up button, because I'm not going to be navigating this topic by myself. I have Jer and Niish from the Obelisk podcast, who are also starting a new show. I believe it's called Airplane Mode. We'll get into that. We'll ask them about that during the show. So they have, Niish is right into the vampire topic, and she knows a lot of information. They have both collectively interviewed so many people on the occult and a lot of these topics. They are vast in podcasting world, so it's going to be an exciting show. So we're going to unpack this history, the symbolism, the claims. What the heck is adrenochrome anyways? We'll get into all of this on this show of the Velvet Bite Radio. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. And those of you who love Substack might be interested to know that I am on Substack, and I wrote an companion article to go with this show. So you can follow me at melissadawnharris.substack.com before we get into this. And all of the links are also over at melissadawnharris.com. Now, with the Substack, if you join for free, you get all the free stuff. You get the podcast. You will also get a complimentary read, I believe. And I believe I made it so people right now could get a week free, so they could read all this stuff under the paywall. So just simply go to melissadawnharris.substack.com or melissadawnharris.com, and you will get all of that. So, vampires, adrenochrome, blue bloods, elites, power. Let's bring Jer and Niish in, and we will talk all about it. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you doing today?
Good. How's it going?
Hello. I'm going to let Jerry start with, yes,
start.
because I actually have to run and do the bathroom
Of
really
course.
fast.
It's always something.
Okay. Jer, were you ever into vampires in your life, or vampire movies or horror movies? Did you ever get into that scene, or were you always mystical?
I was an Anne Rice vampire fanatic.
What's the best book?
Oh, I really like the one about the one. I remember the bicycle guy in there. Bicycle thief was in it.
Oh, okay.
David Talbot, where didn't he switch bodies with Talbot at one point?
Oh, is that like the body thief? Or
the body thief? I said bicycle thief. The body thief. That one was, I think, my favorite at the time. I did like Queen of the Damned. I liked them all, but I think Body Thief was my favorite.
My favorite was the Vampire Lestat.
Yeah, I like that one too. I didn't like the Armand one. I didn't like what they did with him in the movies. Yada yada yada. That was pretty much, of course I knew all the vampire lore before then, but it was the Anne Rice stuff that really got me into the lore, even though it was more airy, I guess. I don't know. Romanticized, if you will. And homoerotic, which Everybody loves that, right? Not even a smile. Come on.
Well, see, I'm more into Dracula, and there is some stuff like that in there, but I'm into the more dramatic. I love 60s and 70s kind of movies with all those cheesy vampires. But
the Christopher Plummer, Frank Langella. Yeah, absolutely.
Count Yorga, like I go B-rated, man. And Count Yorga was originally supposed to be like a vampire porno.
Well, Lugosi.
He's great. Every era has their vampire, and the vampire reflects that generation and that era. So it's why it's so powerful and enduring. But of course, I love the book, the original book and the novel, and I love Victorian Gothic literature.
I never read it.
It's a great book. It's a great book, and the Count in the movies is so different from the Count in the book because he's a real psychopath in the book.
Are you sure your microphone?
Like what we're going to talk about. He's like this sort of adrenochrome mofo. just to put it simple.
See, I don't know.
Question here before we get deeper into this. What do y'all think vampires are? Like Melissa and Jerry, what is that for you, knowing the lexicon that's out there at this point?
What do they are? What do you mean?
What are they? What is a vampire?
I think it's an allegory. I think the idea of it came up allegorically.
I think it's a metaphor, but I think it's also rooted in something very real. I don't think you can literally go and bite someone and turn them into a vampire immortal, but I think it's rooted in some real fears and maybe even some real practices that existed or may still secretly exist.
So when we're looking at that, what do you think? And again, with the lexicon out there of what we are thinking a vampire is through pop culture, through mythology, through history, out into the distant past as a separate species, really, what are the powers of the vampire that you think seem to be attached to that ideology?
I think it's some kind of parasitical entity, whatever that may be, that somehow permeated into the mainstream narrative and manifested as a vampire. Because it feeds off of humans. Oh, somebody just typed parasite.
Melissa, what do you think?
Well, I think there is some sort of elite line. And like I was just talking to Jerry before you came back on, and sorry, I apologize everybody about my microphone issue. It was switched on to my computer instead of my microphone, so my apologies for that sound issue. I really do think that if you go look in Dracula, that kind of model of some elite blue blood, that this ego that wants to live forever, and he consumes the lifeblood of everyone to do so. It's straight in the Bible that Leviticus, you're not supposed to drink the blood of the living. It's not about meat, it's about blood. It is their life force. It is, that contains what makes them live. And the Bible says you're not supposed to consume it. And I think that's what Bram Stoker was inspired to write this from. And I think it's a warning. And I think people who are anti good stuff know that there's something about blood, and the ego wants to live forever.
So what about if we get past the Victorian period? Sorry, I got my wolf pack going. What if we get past the Victorian period and go back, say, into antiquity?
Oh, I think it's right there as well with rituals for longevity, rituals to certain gods. You see child sacrifice. And we know, like, when it comes to adrenochrome, and of course it comes from adrenaline in our adrenal glands, and the youngest of the youngest are going to have the most healthy, potent adrenals that work properly, right? For child sacrifice, stuff like that.
Adrenochrome and blood are two separate fluids.
They are, but when you produce the adrenaline, it goes into your blood.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I think we could easily pull that up and look at it.
Well,
Easily.
I
I've
also
got it
wanted
right
to
here in
throw
my
in there
article.
that I think you talked to Walter Bosley about blood rituals, right? Was that where I learned all this? That
I'm not
blood
sure.
rituals have permeated human culture for eons. There's always been some culture doing blood rituals. That was on your show, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's nothing new there.
Yeah. No, it's nothing new, but it's enduring throughout cultures, and so suddenly it's supposed to just disappear, right? With Christianity, and I would find it interesting if there
But
were people who didn't believe it still.
It didn't disappear with Christianity. It was
That's
just
what I just said.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They said it went away. No, it was Christianity masked it into a ritual. You know, the whole body and blood of Christ. That's a cannibalistic ritual that they've masked behind a facade.
So let's look at this idea of blood and adrenalized blood. I think Melissa may have probably pulled that up by now. And
I'm looking.
the idea of the constituents of the blood. I mean, there's water in blood, there's plasma, the whole thing. So it's so intricately tied with this species that it is something that needs to be ironed out, not just the applications of it. What is blood? And then we, I think, can find our way into deeper territory. Rituals, blood rituals definitely are tied into it. There's a lot of stuff tied into the mythos of the species we call vampire. But I want to postulate and put out to you that this species is intertwined. It's a three-way split with this species that has a singular narrative, a singular I guess, origin that is not so easily seen through the stories that have been handed down. And I also would like to present that that was intentional. And this particular species has done well to hide in plain sight. And would it be radically earth-shattering if they weren't anything we think they are? What if they don't actually consume blood? So perhaps we start with adrenochrome and what is it about the blood?
Well, like I
The
said,
Bible even says the
it's
blood
life
is
force.
the life.
It's in Leviticus.
Right. What? Picture yourself as a caveman, and your buddy gets his arm bitten off by a dinosaur, a fake dinosaur, and he bleeds out and dies. There's going to be the association there that is what kept him alive, was his gook. His blood came out of him, so now he's dead. I can see how early humans associated that with life force. So forever, humans have associated blood with life force, and what is the most valuable thing to a human is life. By making blood sacrifices, you're giving something, the most powerful thing to whatever you're worshiping. I can see how that connection could have grown strong. Whether or not it's true is different. It's not true, but whole different idea.
Well, yeah, and even in Leviticus, you're not supposed to. You yourself are not supposed to do the sacrifice. You're supposed to bring it to the temple for special people.
Of course.
And you're not supposed to be sacrificing children either, as far as I know. But that doesn't mean people didn't, and that it didn't happen. And that was their most valuable. That's their most valuable, because children weren't thought of the same way that we think of them.
And
they're thought of as resources.
And they have the purest blood.
Yep. They have the healthiest adrenals. They have the healthiest heart. They have the healthiest everything because they're new.
So as far as adrenochrome goes, adrenaline, yeah, you're right. It is in the blood. I thought it was, for some reason, it was in the limbic system, but
I knew that because I just wrote a massive article about it. That's why I knew.
On your Substack, which you said. Adrenochrome. So adrenaline is the same thing as epinephrine, which I did not know. And adrenochrome is oxidized adrenaline.
Yes, it is.
So if adrenaline
It's-
can get into your bloodstream, if it's in the right artery or vein, whichever one has oxygen, it could oxidize.
Yeah, well, and the thing is there's another step that they take to make it useful. Adrenochrome as itself
Yes, yeah.
is unstable, so they do another step that I believe it makes it like it makes it into, I'll tell you in just one moment here, carbazochrome. And that's when they can use it to promote blood clotting and for hemorrhaging and for treatment is when it goes that. But I've looked at things and apparently they were using adrenochrome, like I said, for treatment to start a dead frog's heart, also treatment for frostbite to reverse it. So it's got some potent power.
So
but then they'll go and tell you, oh no, it doesn't do anything. It's a lie.
Well, no, they didn't say it doesn't do anything. They said there's no medical application for it.
Well, they just did 2 medical applications in the 30s
Those were
and 40s.
experiments. Those aren't applications. Anyway, my point, what I was going to say was that if adrenaline's in your bloodstream and when it oxidizes, it becomes adrenochrome, the act of drinking blood out of someone's vein, i.e. a vampire, would give you, if they were terrified because you're a freaking vampire, right? Who's chomping on their neck and terrifying you, you're releasing all this adrenaline, it's in your bloodstream, and they're chomping on they're drinking it. It's going to oxidize in your mouth, is where I'm going with this. And it's going to become adrenochrome as they drink it. Right? No? Yes? Maybe?
That's the theory. That it would be in the blood. That's the theory for the QAnon. That's the theory that it's in your blood. Okay, well, that's what they believe.
Well, I just explained. You. If your adrenal glands are releasing adrenaline into your bloodstream, it's in your blood. Once that hits the air, it becomes adrenochrome. So if a vampire, I'm just trying to come up with some reasons for vampires here. Okay, it's a vampire show.
Settle down. Settle down.
I'm gonna try and walk.
You know what? Do you understand what I'm saying, though?
I do.
Okay. All right. That's all. I'll shut up now.
Well, so back to the constituents of blood. What are we looking at when we're looking at blood? What makes up blood?
Plasma.
And let's just pull up. Let's just pull it
minerals.
Up. Get the real stats so that people don't say we're just pulling stuff out of our arse.
It's got plasma and blood cells.
Yep.
And platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells.
Yep.
55% of it is plasma. 45% of it is the cells.
And then let's throw this in as well. What's this idea of white blood? Now that's out there, so we need to look at it.
Well, what?
White blood?
Blood.
You mean the actual white blood cells, or is this some other component?
Well, this is what I'm saying. This is all a thing to unravel because the species has intentionally, let's say, mimicked and hidden itself within the greater populace for a very long time. In fact, they've been with us the whole time. And so we need to kind of iron some of these things out. So white blood is also another thing that is considered, the semen's considered white blood colloquially. And I'm tying this right now. So I'm going way back to some early well-known names. So we could look at Inanna and Tiamat and others, but how tied to blood and how tied are blood menses and women. This is a big deal. This is something we should consider, the menses of a woman. And if we think about it in out of context to where we are now, but in context to the ancient world and to say even more of a patriarchal reserved space that is where the women, the matriarchy, is more in control. The menses hold immense power. They still do, but it's not as mysterious to the modern world as it once was. So we have this idea of the succubi and the white blood, the man's semen from his man root, which was an old colloquial term for the
Well-
penis. And so this idea that women, and I mean real women with wombs that shed and create blood, became very stigmatized at one point after its glorious days of being honored as something very sacred. And so I'm putting a whole bunch of different pieces here to create a bigger puzzle work here, a mosaic, if you will. So we have all this stuff going on, and the adrenochrome is a very big deal because adrenalized anything is going to have a different taste as well. So think about if you're a hunter and you hunt game, right? And that gamey taste you get from something that dies, a deer. There's the gamey taste of a big game that happens. You can taste it in the meat as opposed to things that were not hunted and then slaughtered. And this is what, in agriculture, and natural ways of keeping animals that humans were going to eat. And back in the old days, animals were eaten the whole thing. So the blood, the bone, everything was eaten. The hides were used. Nothing went to waste. And I think when we're starting to look at this mythology, we have to strip ourselves of the modern day. And that includes the residue from the Victorian period, where we get the more sexified Dracula from Bram Stoker, who,
Well,
carry on, Melissa.
No, I was just going to say, like, biblically, this is in the Old Testament and stuff. Like, they believe that you should wash the blood off and not consume it, that it was like bad thing to do. So it's just a lot longer than Victorian idea. There wasn't a sexual connotation to what they're saying. It was just about, it's a sin to God to take that life. That's how they say it.
Well, I'm just talking about the way we see vampires now, and that it's hard to separate the Bram Stoker more sexualized, even though in the book, he describes them basically as lizards crawling up walls, etc. There's a real reptilian vibe to the Bram Stoker story. But if we even step back just a little bit prior to that, we have, and remember, Bram Stoker is the one, no, it was Hammer. It was Bram Stoker, I think, wasn't it? And the Hammer films really hammered it in with the fangs. That was not in the old tales of the vampire at all.
In fact, Hammer Horror was the first movie you ever saw the actual fangs.
Exactly. Well, we saw the different kind with Nosferatu. Herzog's and all that. So we saw the like more rodent or bug type things. And especially my favorite is Werner Herzog's this 1972.
Yeah, the 1979.
79 with Klaus Kinski, one of the greatest
my
films
favorite
ever made. And
what movie was that?
79.
Nosferatu, 1979.
Oh yeah, the remake. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it was kind of a remake, but it wasn't. It's like you can't really you can call it that, but I think all the three films that have
phenomenal.
been called Nosferatu all stand on their own, but they share that same kind of mythology. They share something similar, but to me, they just all stand on their own. But the thing is with the fangs, with this kind of idea of this more lewd idea of biting and drinking the blood, and this kind of rat-like monstrous idea of consuming the life force of another. And of course, when we think about one's vital energy, and which we look back at psychology. Remember, Freud thought of libido as sexual energy, and Jung thought of it as your vital energy. And these words mean something when we're starting to break down or unravel narrative. And so this becomes an idea of the vitality, consuming that of something else. So vampires and just the lore that goes back, and I'm not into the Lalit stuff or the Jewish stuff, but pre that,
Mm-hmm.
way before that, there's
Right.
all this narrative too. But when we think about this idea of how life force plays out, most people think about blood is life force, but they also, I mean, think about the semen is life giving. This is the sperm, and the
Right.
menses are what? So you this is where I think ultimately and possibly unconsciously, when Bram Stoker was constructing his narrative, which is, I think, arguably maybe the most famous until Anne Rice came along, but he paved the way for Anne Rice's vampires, that
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at something that deals with the sexy aspect of life force, with
Mm-hmm.
the vivacious idea, the reinvigorating idea. And at the core of that is what? Procreation. That's why I wanted to bring in white blood and a woman's
Right.
menses.
Well, like,
So
if you kind of trace it back, it's also a fear of death too, because I mean, if you lose lots of semen, you're not going to probably die, but if you lose enough blood, you probably will. So there's this connection between death and viruses that they didn't understand. And so a lot of the vampire myth is, if you at least go Eastern European and back, they are very concerned with their people dying and someone taking that life away from them and coming back from the grave and coming back and killing other relatives because they didn't understand, you know, how diseases exactly how diseases spread. So like with Dracula, I don't know.
They
I don't
still
know.
don't
He
know.
could be. He could be into this semen thing, but if he's pulling from all the research he did, he's pulling from Eastern European.
oh yeah, I'm not landing on Bram
Mm-hmm.
Stoker. I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
he brought us this modern idea. And see, I think that, and he got a great deal of his research really went into Vlad Tepes, as we know. That's how he named him Dracula from Dracul and all that. This is all a misdirect, is what I'm trying to say. This is taking us away from the actual species. And this is
Okay.
more, and so when we get back into like even medieval, into that medieval range, we're looking at something that is more akin to ghouls than
Mm-hmm.
vampires. And there's a big distinction to be made here. Now, ghouls live off of the flesh and the blood of the newly dead. And there was a misdirect into that. Ghouls are as real as a vampire is, at least in this kind of cultural mythos. But I propose that vampires are an actual species and that they are not at all what you think they are. So when we're looking at ghouls, which I think is what the modern day vampire seems to be, but sexualized, and the idea of eternal life, again, I wanted to come back to that idea, eternal life. So again, the mystery of the zinc spark, the mystery of the white blood, the mystery of the sacred egg, the mystery of the sperm and the semen is in here in this narrative. It's in between the lines, but I believe any good scholar of this material will take it there, if they're really wanting to talk about vampires at any depth. And so this is important to understand. In modern culture right now, there's a lot of stuff we could easily call vampires and ghouls, and everyone's going to get them mixed up. And that's part of where I thought, it'd be interesting to start is what are the powers of a vampire? What do we think a vampire is? What are the constituents of blood? What is blood? What is semen? What is a menstrual cycle? And then start building back from there. I'm going to kind of release the floor here, but I think that this stuff should all be in the consideration. And then, of course, bloodline is a big deal here. Very big deal. And we all know that.
It's a huge deal, at least for certain families, that's for sure. And it's, when you talked about the rules, Nish, it gets confusing because the movies sort of always add new rules. So I don't know, what are the original rules? Because I can tell you a whole bunch of different sets of rules that every movie makes up, just to push their script. But from what I know, originally vampires didn't die in the sunlight.
Well, again, there's this photosynthesis and sunlight's a big deal, and that's also a misdirect. And look at modern day vampires that glitter in the, there's so much. But I do want to point out that I think that the sunlight thing is, like you said, I do believe the sunlight is a misdirect, although if we're talking about this modern sun that seems to scorch everyone if you're in it for too long directly, we could all be considered vampires at this point. But there's something there about in the light of day. Now, this does bring us into the darkness and into the shadows and into the whole children of the night and the night vision and the dark gift. And so part of the dark gift, if you think about it, and I'm just putting this stuff out as questions, I'm postulating we're having a conversation about this, but so Anne Rice gives us this idea of the dark gift, and Anne Rice is a very interesting character indeed, because she gave us under her name, Anne Rice, she gave us 3 major narratives. This was not without intention. Anne Rice did this intentionally, and she did it extensively, and she did it to a standard of excellence that no one before her has done. So Anne Rice talks about vampires, witches, and angels and demons, right? Jesus. And I think that this is a wink to the deeper knowledge here, because Anne was tapping into or potentially in contact with this other species. And I believe also Sir Malcolm, who wrote the book on angels and endangered species, is someone that needs to be looked at too. Sadly, I couldn't get him on the Cosmic Salon in time. He died in the process, but the angels and endangered species, Sir Malcolm had a lot. Sir Malcolm had a lot of wisdom in this department. And so when we're thinking about these things, I think it's important to start looking at how this has continued to weave forward. So before we go back again, look at what Guillermo del Toro gave us. He gave us The Strain. He wrote it, the books, he made the series. We're talking about vampires. Now, his vampires, and he writes this in, you'll see it in the book, but they didn't really explore this in the series, and it's a par excellence. It is so good. The series is so good. The book, the everything he does is at top tier. But this all started with the dead flesh of an angelic being and the parasites from the dead flesh that are white, and the angelic flesh is something to look at this when you're considering all of this in tandem, trying to get to the truth of what we're actually talking about. I mean, we can talk about the narratives, but if you want to get to the truth of the species, you got to go deeper. And so the white, they call it the white a lot, and this is a big deal. And one of the things that Del Toro brings forward in his adaptation of this narrative is something that's very familiar, the clod of dirt, the clod of earth. Now, this is legal terminology too. It's like in absentia. It has a place in poetry, but it also has a place in legal language. And I love discovering this when my husband was taking the bar and finding out all these different, we're studying for the bar, and all this stuff was juicy for my mind with the metaphysical stuff. Anyway, and so my ex-husband, by the way. And so this idea is a big deal. The vampire moves with the earth. It's earth. Now we have to go back again and jump over to looking at Marie Laveau, however you want to pronounce it, New Orleans again, and the idea of buying graveyard dirt. Now, she's not the first one to talk about it. It's an old school process. But why do we buy graveyard dirt, which is a main ingredient in what they call gopher dust? And this is all tied into this particular subject matter. So we get the clod of dirt, the clod of earth through the novels. A vampire has to move with his own earth. We see that Dracula makes his trek across the seas in the coffins with the dirt of his homeland.
Absolutely.
And so we see this also in Del Toro's narrative too. This is essential. Well, this is legal language as well, and it's a big deal. Why is that such a big deal in the vampire narrative? And see, this little tidbit takes us into antiquity. So I'm just curious, do you know, what do you think about these ideas? And have either of you enjoyed the Del Toro vampire material?
I haven't watched or engaged with the Del Toro, so I can't make comment on it.
Yes, I love the strain was excellent. I didn't read the book. I didn't even know it was a book till you just said that. I had to look it up.
Jerry, the film, the series was seriously one of the best when we're talking about vampire stories.
Yeah,
so
it was really good.
Melissa,
it was good.
get that one going. You will love it. It's so good.
It's on Hulu, by the way. I'm trying to remember. I remember the white. I just can't remember where it played into the story. It was some kind of
the white is what
it was the master's blood.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember.
But remember, all masters have an origin. So and then we're introduced to hybrids because he had the son. Remember Quinlan?
Right, the hunter guy
who turned against the master. And so and so I don't want spoilers for people who haven't seen it, especially I don't want to ruin it from Melissa, because girl, you need to enjoy this, especially with your show.
I'll probably go look at the audiobook too.
Yeah, you
actually
need
listen to the actual
this.
book.
Del Toro brings it to a different level, a very modern level, and what's going on in the subtext there is in classic Del Toro ways is way richer than what is actually presented just for the visually minded people. There's a place to park wherever you are with any of this. So it's important to understand that there are things that kill a vampire as well. There are things that kill anything out there except for what? Can angelic hosts be killed?
Not that I know of. I thought they were eternal.
You remember what Jordan Maxwell told us about that?
Bring it forward, Jerry.
I don't. What did he say?
I'm half joking. The whole idea that they're spirits and they can't be harmed by physical things. He was on our show and he told us, the priest told him if he didn't, do whatever, follow the Bible, he'd go to hell and burn in hell forever. He's like, well, if I'm dead and I'm a spirit, he's like, can I burn an angel with this blowtorch? How am I going to burn? Remember that whole story?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So. And then even in angelology, she presents a way that the angelics can be killed, but it's an interesting thing and it's not easy. So, but what I want to put forward here is that traditionally we do think of them as eternals, right? This is where the eternal thing actually springs forward if we go back into the deeper narrative of all this. And so I'm mixing it all together here so we have a lot of fodder to chew on. And so this eternal idea becomes something very intriguing, and it's definitely tied up into the vampire narrative. Vampires can be killed, in modern day, from the at least, I don't know, 1300s forward, by stake in the heart or beheading. Beheading seems to be like the end all be all, right? I mean, hell, it's done, in the jinn and in Islam, it's talked about a lot. And
But
Sam and Dean.
isn't that the end all for everyone?
Right. This is a big deal. And it's psychologically very, very rich because you're separating the head from the body, the head from the heart, etc. And, we could get lost in all that. But I just want to make it very clear that that's a thing, except for you find that there are some supernatural beings in this world, in this pool, that can reconfigure themselves. And I might point back to Tiamat, the great dragon, and why they keep her dismembered body. And remember, dragons are tied into this on the periphery here, but so in some of the old lore, they would behead a person, they would separate the head from the body. We've seen all this stuff. Melissa, I'm sure you've covered all this, and all the different funerary rites.
Not yet,
but you're going to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of really juicy folkloric traditions that still go on to this day, heads with a cage around them, etc. And so this is all important because this stuff doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It doesn't just happen out of spooks in the night. Spooks in the night are real. And the sooner we understand that and get that, the better we are as a culture, because I believe a lot of these spooks are controlling a lot of our reality right now, here and now. And I know that sounds crazy to people that can't pull up to this kind of material, but to me,
do you think they're physically real, or is it a spiritual energy thing? Or do you think they can possess people and make it really good? How do you think they manifest?
The vampire?
Yeah, the spooks.
Well, okay, so different spooks for different spooks for different, what is it, Jerry?
Different strokes for different folks.
Strokes, yeah. Different spooks for different folks. Well, this starts to beg the question of what is physical reality and what's the nature of our anchors, of our bodies. How real is this experience? And this juxtapositions itself back into that conversation of, if we are born into this reality and the physics of this reality have a certain weight to them that we agree upon, which of course gives them more gravity, then we've lost our host. Are we still in the air? Oh, there she is.
She's
and
fine.
So I get sidetracked so easily. And so, which gives it even more reality. What is the nature of this reality? Well, we know a couple things. You're born into this and that you're going to die, right? Those are I think everyone kind of agrees. Although with transhumanism, that is being challenged. And I postulate that it's already a done deal. And so, but without moving into that kind of woo land, which is actually not woo land anymore.
We should do a show on that.
We should. Put it down, Jerry.
It's going to be our first show I've got planned out, so our second show will be transhumanism.
Excellent. And so we know that here we come here, we're going to die. Well, who are we if we come in here and we die? And so what is this then if we're in here and we die? We are not of this place if we come and leave this. We're transient in here. And if we're transient in here, we're like ghosts in here. And if anywhere you stand in this realm, you think about it with this idea at hand, there are ghosts of the past. Anywhere you stand, it doesn't have to be the haunted house down the corner. Everywhere you stand, there's some sort of life that has been there before you. And so then we get into the idea, well, what is all that? So then the human soul, the human spirit, and the idea of immortality. So if we die, where do we go? And so this is where the role of religion really comes in. And I'm a believer that we don't die. I just have a lot of feelings that we don't die. I don't like the idea of belief, but I don't think we die. In my experience, we don't die. And so if we don't die, then what are we in? What is this where we think we die? And say, if we think we die, what kind of power are we giving away in that? So with the idea of the dark gift, which Anne Rice gave us, we are looking at something like it, and it's the promise of the vampire with that, when Lestat's giving Louis the choice that he did not get, right? I'm giving you the choice, and I'm giving you this gift of eternal life. And with the eternal life, you get to see the world in a whole different way. You get to open your night eyes. You get to open your night vision, your night hearing, and you get the dark gift. And with that comes immortality. And so, and the trade-off with immortality is you must drink the blood or the life force or the essence of the living to sustain this.
Yeah.
Well, where are the living and where are the dead? Technically, we are the dead in here because we die. We are ghosts. Give it another 50 years and test it out. And so, well, with transhumanism, again, let's take it off the table for the moment. But the transhumanism thing is at the core of some of this too. Transhumanism is most vampiric. And so this idea is widening for people to understand how complex all this is. So then what is the nature of our immortal soul? And then there's this whole blue-red thing. What are we looking at here? What is the blue light of the moon and the red light, the yellow light, the bright light of the sun? What is day side? What is night side? And this again continues to piggyback on the Janus realm we're in, death and life, and death and rebirth. And we get this in all the different religious narratives, and there's a lot of control over us because of this. So one of the things we see in the narrative of the modern day vampires, we understand it, is control over normal people. Control over normal people. They have the power of hypnotism through their eyes or through their hands. There's they can move with smoke. They can shapeshift into, as long as their clod of dirt is close by, they have access to these powers. Now, see, we can't get away from the cornerstone of the narrative. Now, the cornerstone of the Christian church is deeply tied into the clot of dirt. It is intricately there. And, that can be a rabbit hole for other people. And lots of, I can't think of his name right now. Is it Kurt? Oh geez, I did a show with him. He's the legal guy. Love him. Anyway, did a whole episode on the cloud of dirt, and I recommend it if I could remember his last name. If anyone's in the chat, Kurt, I think it's Kallenbeck. Is that right? Kurt Kallenbeck. Anyway, did a whole show on that, and he's coming at it from a legal stance. And this is where language always comes into everything. Narrative is language. Everything language is some sort of a spell, is some sort of a mind network of thoughts that can be woven around a person. This is why lawyers suck. They suck. I mean, I come from, my sister's a lawyer. I got lawyers all over me, all around me.
Well,
and so
this is why they always want control of the language and the pronouns. It's powerful, it's a spell, and it controls how people think and the culture.
Absolutely. And see, and this, and we, we got to tie in people like Mesmer and who taught us this, and then all of this other stuff that comes along with it. What is another power? Hypnotism with the vampire, the hypnotic eyes, and also they move in dreams. We cannot separate a vampire from dreams. Why is this? They are intricately tied into all liminal spaces.
Yeah.
And this is also something that the angelics...
They mind read too. They can read your mind.
Yes.
See inside you.
Absolutely. And see, so all these things start to create something a little different than we think. And I know maybe some people are here and they just want to talk about some of the typical mythos, but for me, this is something I do know a little bit of, something deeper than I think a lot of people know.
I wanted to pass them by you because I find it really interesting that you talked about the dirt and the soil and the power, because a lot of us are shipped around and we're removed from our native land and our soil where our ancestors are, and that seems to be intentional or on purpose. When they destroy everything and they ship people around, but the Count takes his dirt with him. He knows that's his power, and that's kind of what Abraham Van Helsing in the book knows, that you have to go destroy the soil and do this ritual and holy whatever else they do, it lay a cross in it. But we've been separated, most of us, from our native soils long time ago.
Well, this is, and they could say that we are definitely a civilization here in America that's lost. I was just listening to some stuff about people talking about, Europeans and Africans and Asians, people that have a connection to their direct land, and how modern Americans are lost because we have all most people here are not from here, no matter how far back you go. Like my family goes back to the very beginning. And if we can believe any of these stories now, right? But no matter how far you go back here, you still came from somewhere else. If you get into old, especially European culture and history, and I don't know if Lady Babs is out there, this brilliant genealogist, unlike anyone else, that families in genealogy outside of the royal lineages, because the royal lineages were marrying, people off all over.
Very closely.
You see them moving around, but otherwise, most people stayed in the same place,
village,
the same village or the same area through generations, and estates passed down through generations. And so this becomes a big deal, this clod of earth, this clod of dirt. And we are what? In the end, our bodies become the earth again.
Ashes.
And ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And so then this starts to look at the idea of entanglement through the blood again, right? So as much as I'm not a fan of Einstein, I do think his entanglement theory is brilliant, and it's proven to be. And so, I acknowledge that, because if you and this goes into all the magical traditions, all the magicians, all the witchy poos, all the sorcerers, and the wise people understood this on some level. If I take a hair from you, I can do something to you with that hair because of the powers and principles behind entanglement. Now, Did they understand that? On a magical level, they did, but Einstein at least ironed that down for us and said there is this DNA resonates with that. You know, you can get into that. So think about the cloud of dirt again with this. So say Vlad Tepes, you know, where he was slain, where he laid, where his body laid and rotted. If he's rising into his dark gift, creating an astral form, a physical form in this space, because his dirt, the dirt that he came from, the dirt that he returned to, and we know the constituents of dirt now because of all the modern day looking at what is it. There's a lot of silica in there, there's a lot of carbon in there, there's life in there. Can rise up from that and create a vectoral a spectral experience that is fleshy and feels like flesh, but it moves like something in the ethers. It moves strangely, strange in strange ways. The illumination of the day can give that away. But the silver of the night, the liminal feeling of the night, is a good blanket to present oneself in and to move over vast amounts of space. And this is where the idea of reliquaries I know I'm all over, but I mean, I could write a series of books on this. This is where a reliquary, so we see reliquaries, especially the Catholics love their reliquaries. And I personally love a lot of what the Catholics do, especially the Orthodox ones. And so the reliquary is what? It's a relic from the body. It's a finger, it's a toenail, it's a head, it's a piece of hair. And they are housed usually in beautiful things, in beautiful caskets of sorts, but they can be thrown into, in like voodoo, when you're buying dirt, if you're actually doing the old graveyard dirt, which was not just getting it from the actual dirt around the casket, it's getting down into the casket and getting the dirt of the body, or getting into the mausoleum and getting the ashes, the dust from the being that was in there. This is the real true. And a lot of people don't talk about this real true. Anyway, so if you have this, you have what you need. And if you have what you need and you bring it with you in something simple like a red bag or a reliquary necklace, a memento mori, a locket in the Victorian period, a lock of hair, right? The mourning arts in the Victorian period are, and I postulate this, but I believe that this was all for this amalgamated realities to happen. And it was in the unconscious of that era of the Victorian people. And so I'm still talking about Westworld. I mean, the Western world. And so this becomes a very important idea, because what we saw was something very important in the narrative of the vampire in the Victorian period, because we brought them out of the realm of the ghoul, which was intentional, that came from these great goddesses back in antiquity, back into the realm of modern, cultured, undead, bloodlined people, heavily affluent people. And then we start to see with the Knights Templars start to look a little different. And then when we get to the 18th century with Adam Weishaupt, some of these stories start to look a little different if you're looking at it from this slant. And I feel like I'm just dominating the show, so I'm going to give back the floor. I know I've thrown a huge amount at the table, but
you're mesmerizing me. I don't even know what to say because it's so much. I'm just like, oh.
And Jerry's like, she never shuts up.
Well, you don't give anyone a chance to respond, and you move on to. so many topics.
I love it, but then I'm like, okay, what?
Yeah, me too.
I'm not sure what question to answer because there's so much, and
Exactly.
I'm just listening and absorbing. Like, wow.
I'm sorry. I
it's
do
Not that we don't love
apologize.
to. I love to hear you talk and everything. It's just like we have other things to say.
No, but I just
rebuttals.
find it all so interesting. Like the soil. The reason I bring the soil stuff up is because of everything that we see constantly, and that they're always displacing people and to take resources and land and do all this stuff. And it seems to be soil and all that stuff seems to be, like you said, playing in very important, and where they're from and their lineage and their blood's important, and they seem to know, whoever they are, that it's important, so important that they want to destroy ours and even
Okay,
our DNA.
So if we
Right.
want to just stay with and I'll throw this out and let's talk about this. Pardon me, I just took a drink. I'll throw this out and let's just talk about this. So let's not forget about body jumping. This is in the vampire lore, and I think one of the films that people loved and people hated was The Skeleton Key. I personally loved it. So you've got the idea of vampirism through bloodline, and also Intruders brought this up too. And Intruders was a very, very, very important series that never got finished. I know it was a movie prior to that, it's a book, etc. But the one they did with Billy, what's her name? Jerry 11, I think, isn't she 11 in Stranger
Okay.
Things?
I
Oh,
know who you're talking about.
Billy Brown or
Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. So she's a little kid in it, and I did a 3-way breakdown with Michael Wachter, and
what show is this?
this is Intruders, and it didn't get a lot of play. It was a series, so there's a movie, but there was a series like 2006 maybe.
Oh yeah. I pulled that for you, right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
I wanted to rewatch it because I was doing a breakdown.
Nay.
Yeah, and I did. It's out there if you just search it with my name and you'll find it. Anyway, so this idea of jumping from body to body and using the borrowed time that someone else has left is also in the lexicon of the vampire. So this is what I'm throwing out at the table that we can discuss here. This idea sounds to a lot of people more realistic than the Dracula that drinks people's blood in the night and stuff. So through a process of breaking through a ritualized process, and we see it in the baptism of the dead that goes way back into antiquity, but they still have that ceremony. The Mormons still have it. They call it something different now, but they have the old if you just go into it, and I've done a big breakdown on that, if you just look into the baptism of the dead, the Mormons, or just look at the Intruders, you'll see that there's a lot of precedence for this kind of vampirism. Also, the book Sola Busca, that Peter Mark Adams, is it Peter Mark Adams or
Yeah,
Peter Gray?
the boost. I know it's the tarot deck.
Yeah, the Tarochi, the old Tarochi, which was family blood hopping, and through Scarlet Imprint, a very impressive book, very, very, very impressive book, and
the Sola Busca.
Yeah, the Sola Busca, and that book is the Game of Saturn.
Game of Saturn, yes.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. Incredible. So,
did you ever have him on your show?
I had. No.
I tried to get him on ours. He would never come on.
He wouldn't talk about his personal dreams. That's right.
Yep.
But he might come on to our modern show. So anyway, so when we talk about jumping from one person to another through a ritual, and this most traditionally has been done through bloodlines. So and I'm going to say this. So a lot of times an heir, usually a firstborn, is produced by a certain kind of like Starfire or Moonchild experience, whatever. There's different names for different kinds of ritual births and conceptions that is bred and born to be the sacrifice for the old soul, the progenitor of the bloodline, to then enter. And they've done this all along through the bloodline. So I'm going to put that there, and then we're going to look at the Skeleton Key, just a fabulous film on this. And that's what they are doing in the Skeleton Key. They are taking the life of others, jumping in like jump-ins, like they say, and moving through time like that. And at one time, the great Jenna Rollins, rest in peace, Jenna, a major fan of her and her husband's work, says it's more of a trade-off than a sacrifice. When they were making that very clear, this wasn't a sacrifice, it was a trade-off. And so part of this idea is to get the person that they're going to jump into, so that the person that's jumping in can live longer and continue through time, is they have to get them to believe. They have to get them worked up. They have to adrenalize them, people. Here
Right.
again is the
There it
adrenochrome.
is.
And it's functioning in a different way because adrenaline changes you, and it puts you into fight or flight, which totally bypasses your frontal lobe. And so this becomes a very complex.
So you're in the fear mode all the time. You're not thinking logically, and
you can
you're
break them
just-
and jump in them.
Yeah.
It's very MK.
We weaken a boundary. It's like
Yes.
inviting a vampire across the barrier, but it's something a little different. They're literally through your body. Wow.
And so this is a deep connection here. So I'm going to throw that here. So first of all, Melissa, have you seen that film?
Nope.
Skeleton Key. You're going to love it. The Skeleton
You guys,
Key.
I'm always in the 60s and the 70s. I apologize to everybody.
I can take you there too. I can take you in the 60s and 70s for sure.
Oh, no worries. But no, I'll watch this stuff eventually. But I have I'm a big 60s, 70s movie person, because some of the modern stuff, I don't know what's wrong with my brain. The way they make movies today, it just doesn't jive with my brain.
I pretty much guarantee you'll like the Skeleton Key. And okay. I think if you give Guillermo del Toro's The Strain a chance, I think you will like it. This is not on the order of all the renditions of Anne Rice movies, but the Anne Rice series that she died during the making of and had problems with some of the casting and all that, they've done a decent job. But I just want your ideas on this. Did we lose Melissa again?
Looks like
no.
it.
I'm here.
Okay.
When you go off
private chat,
when you go off,
I know.
Yeah.
I just told you in private chat. I'm still here. I just had to get the dog.
Do we all disappear?
Sorry.
Oh,
No.
Sorry. I wasn't looking that way. But so let's talk about this for a minute and look at this idea of vampirism through bloodline, through jumping in. And so what do we think about this idea of having the firstborn or any of your children basically procreated to be the vessel for you or the grandfather? It depends on, however you want to do it. Well, it's usually a grandparent to a grandchild because of the lifespan thing. That's traditionally the way it hopped, one generation over. Also, if you think about recessive genes, that's also a juicy way in which the juicier genes jump.
That's like that where they're saying that in biology, where you inherit things that happen to your grandparents. Doesn't show up in them, but it shows up in you.
Yeah, and see, this is all tied together, and how that stuff's traced. And see, this is when we're talking about some of the other greater woo out there too, when they were genetic
epigenetics,
all this is at play. But when they were I'm trying to stay in this is important. So when we were being mass bagged and tagged, I guess, our genetics were being recorded through
Right.
certain
2020, you mean?
Yes, when
Okay.
all that was
Gotcha.
happening, everyone's getting tagged for their genetics. This, and I put this out here because I believe the species walks among us, and that I don't believe it. I know it. I'm just going to say that straight out. I know it, and I'm not talking about the posers out there and the Psyvamps. I'm not talking about blood drinkers either.
Yeah.
And remember, I'm tying these into angelic hosts and also real witches. Not the kind of witches that are everywhere today. And I'm one of these people that witches are born. It's a genetic thing and not made. You can practice those things, but there's a difference. And I don't care to get into that debate. But these things are all tied together, and this stuff is all tied together with the blood is the life in the Bible, and with the Magdalene bloodline, the Plantagenets, the Merovingians, the dragon bloodline. This is all tied in. It's one species, and one species that has a diversity within it, just like we see with the way genetics move through a bloodline. And you've got to remember with bloodlines, and the great Lady Babs, if she's out there, can let you know that there are the pretenders that come in. So a bloodline looks like it's ended, and what they've done is they've scattered it. It may have, but maybe it hasn't. And so there's a lot of another good narrative for this is the Bene Gesserit, the Dune universe. And I think that they're really getting into this idea. This is all forms of vampirism that I think people that falls under the guise of what people think the surface level is. But there is a place to park for people wherever they want to park. It goes very, very deep, deeper than most people think. It's way deeper than Lilith or Lilitu or Inanna. It's way deeper and older than that.
Yeah. It's interesting because these things keep repeating, so you hear these, like, you hear these themes. They don't just show up and then go away. They stick, and people retell it, whether it's through books or movies, and people keep passing it on, maybe with different adages or whatnot. But these things that you're mentioning, these like elements, there's clearly something there. Like when you're talking about these sort of things shifting, jumping bodies, it's like possession. It's like demonic.
Well, that
It's
you
weird.
just hit the nail on the head. Possession is in the name of the game partly for this too. But there's different forms of possession because I do think that there are dark forces out there that are also not this. So when we want to look at the idea of demons, and I think that a lot of people want to put this species into that parking lot, that's fine. But I do think that there's something different with like the jinn and the demon, and I recognize the jinn as a species as well. So, but possession is a key word here, and then it's also a legal word.
Right. Possession is, what do they say? Possession's
9/10
of the law. Oh,
The
no.
law of
Squatters.
one.
My husband would know about that.
9/10 of the
Squatters'
law.
rights, y'all. Squatters' rights.
9/10 of the law of one.
Well, it is, because with the vampire, like as soon as you invite him in, he's entitled. He owns everything. You lose your power. He has power over everything. That's one of the rules. You never invite a vampire into your house. Silly.
And that's a contract, right? And this is why I'll never understand why people have welcome mats at their door.
Oh my God, I have a welcome mat.
Girl, what are you thinking?
It was there when I moved here.
Mine just says good vibes.
Mine
just
says
said,
go
fuck
away.
off.
Mine literally says go away.
That's why they keep coming. I have signs saying like no sales, no nothing, and they keep coming. I'm like, Mike, it's the welcome mat.
Before we move off this topic, I did want to bring up the idea of energy vampires, which
Let's go there.
is also another thing, and it's representation in media, specifically this one movie I remember a lot is called Life Force. Have you ever seen that? Energy
Yes.
vampires from space.
Yes, from space. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a big deal, Jared. Go on.
Oh, I know.
I gotta watch it.
And if you think about it, the Matrix itself is about energy vampires. They're machines, but they are vampirizing the energy out of humans to survive, providing a false reality for them to live in to fool them into a false sense of security.
You know, I read a book that was an anthology of vampire stories. There's many different stories in it.
Mhm.
And in one of the stories, it was set in the future. Dracula had taken over the world and all the humans, and they were housing humans like cattle for their blood. And they had these renegade people who would work for them who could go out in the sunlight, and they would hunt down the remaining humans for their life force. And pregnant women were like the coveted gifts. And it was about these people the humans who were basically whacking these hunters and stuff like that, and Dracula ruled this world. It was really good, but it kind of reminded me of that, this sort of like that they still need us to cattle us, like, and they were cattling us in this fake environment, but it was under Dracula. It was weird.
There's also the movie Blade. Well, this goes back to Blood. Blade is a daywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and see, that was very important, Jerry.
Yeah.
This is why I think nobody should get comfortable with what they think it really is, because it's very mutable.
It's different. And there's another movie too called Daybreakers with Sam Neill that has that whole human cattle as a blood source. I really like that movie. I know people hate on it. It's with Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke, Sam Neill. It's a good movie. I also wanted to bring up.
Your mic just went off.
I also wanted to bring up the fact, an idea. I had heard someone say. I don't remember who said this, but one thought about why vampires need to drink blood and why they live at night so they don't get their body doesn't make vitamin D. So one of the aspects of drinking blood of humans is that they absorb the vitamin D out of their blood to live. So one aspect of vampirism could be vitamin D transfer.
And they have, and you're right there. And there's this whole, in the medical field, they have.
It's very physical base layer stuff.
But it's important because they have that whole disease that they consider the vampire disease.
The virus. Like if you look at Blade, it's a virus, yeah.
Well, and see the virus and the parasite, these are very, very much tied into this. And if we go back to like angelology or the strain, you can see where that stuff's kind of laid in, because in the strain, it is the parasites off of, some angelic flesh. And so, and
they didn't explore that in the show, the origin, did they?
No, they did not go there with that. So you never really know what the white is, but it's there.
Well, you don't know where the master came from either.
Right. They didn't. Well, and it's funny because it was a series. They could have really, I don't know what constraints that Del Toro was under, but it was still really good. It was still really good.
No question.
So this idea of viral, and now I think where we are in the world, hopefully people understand what viral really is, and now it's taken on a digital connotation, and I think it has the same potential as a powerful word as it did at one time when it had more potential in the world of physiology and biology. But I don't want to get into that discussion about terrain versus all this. But to me, everything is basically parasites and venom. And there's another aspect of the vampire too, is venom. And they're
That
associated.
it infects your blood?
Yes, the infection idea. And see, if you think about Dracula with the rats and the fleas and the Black Death and all that, there's this infection idea that goes along with it. And that is something to, when you're creating this bigger expanse of ideas around this concept, this has to be on the table as well. So, vampires are in essence, to some, an actual virus. And then isn't it interesting, the idea of how we turn our nose up to a species that would drink blood, and yet we are a species, humans are a species that eats meat. Like, it's like eating all meat all day, all the time is like very fashionable. And not only that, that in the United States alone, I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's all states but Idaho, perhaps, where eating human flesh is not illegal. And it's fashionable. There's always been, it's always been on the table of the exotic meat lovers, and it's got an underground presence in other places like Germany, and it's always been there. And then
Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely. And there's tons of stuff going on. Like, think about Eating Raoul in the 80s, that movie, and
Yeah.
Eat the Rich, and I mean, there's just all these great narratives out there.
Fried green tomatoes.
Exactly. And then there's that kind of story, right? The
Right.
revenge.
It's ambiguous. It's Idaho is the only state where it's illegal to eat.
So
human
see,
flesh.
it's the one state in Idaho. I think you can't even get like marijuana and stuff. Idaho is not having anything. And so one needs to also wonder, there's a lot to ponder about Idaho, but that's a different show. And so think about this. So if you're drinking like a Mountain Dew, or there's a lot of stuff. If you're, a lot of the food we have, this is outside of the McDonald's scandal. A lot of the food that we actually encounter that's produced for us, especially in the Western world and particularly in the United States, is laced with some sort of human stuff. So whether it's whether it's stem cells or whatever, but then the road gets very murky with what is McDonald's serving you, and all this, and that's another narrative. But it is a thing, and it's become more fashionable. Of course, what are we talking about though? So it's all right for this species to eat and feed off of humans, but in Anne Rice's narrative, Louis did just fine on rats, and yet humans do this to everything. Basically, humans will eat anything.
Right. We only consume dead things.
Exactly. So we start to bring
Well,
in this
we
idea
can't
of what's the
consume live
difference.
things.
We
Guess
can.
could try.
You can.
This is a practice, and it's just not the standard practice here, but it is a practice, and we have some pretty creepy practices like veal, and there's some pretty creepy
Yeah, but
stuff.
it's delicious.
And so so this starts to bring in this more moral stuff. What makes it all right for us? So technically, so Melissa, you bring up the good point. We generally, as humans, only eat dead things, right? Chicken, cat. Here, I'm just gonna say in America, the traditional thing was like
chicken, beef, pork.
Yeah, and fish, right? So, but what was I lost my train of thought there.
We only eat dead things, you were saying?
Oh, so what else only eats dead things? ghouls. I'm
Oh.
talking about in the world of monsters that we consider ghouls. That's what ghouls eat.
Ghouls. I was gonna say zombies eat live people.
Zombies
Brains.
eat anything, and that was the traditional thing. And Romero brought us into the world of zombies. But Romero's opus was, of course, Season of the Witch or Hungry Housewives or Jack's Wife, I think was the original term, which also gives us brings in the witch and a narrative of sacrifice, but also of becoming and turning into the wisdom of the unseen world, and also talks about the power of women and what it is to be empowered on that level. But that goes back to Tiamat, that goes back to Lilith and all that stuff. But where I'm talking about is morally, if one species eats humans and another species eats cows and chicken, what's the difference? Except for we're humans, and so we find that offensive. I find it offensive when people are eating everybody's dogs and cats, and
Well,
we could, you know what I'm
They're
saying?
eating the dogs.
we're-
They're eating the cats.
we're made omnivores. I mean, we're made to do that. So I don't know. I guess we need to ask God why we have to consume protein to live and why our biological function, because you can be a vegetarian, but it's just not the same protein. It doesn't have the same. And because I've been vegan, I've been vegetarian, it just doesn't have the same as meat. So I
not
mean,
healthy.
we're just kind of biologically programmed that way, and it would be who's programmed us that way and why.
Most
Why is that how life goes?
most animals are carnivores.
Yeah.
There are very few that are herbivores.
So why is it so distasteful for another species known as vampires to eat us?
Well, because we want to survive.
Exactly. Exactly. This becomes kind of a very twisted idea of how to look at it when you're the one being consumed, but spider and fly.
Also brings up the idea of an apex predator, whereas we believe that humans are the apex predators on this planet. And the idea that vampires prey on humans kind of puts the kibosh to that idea. So it's also...
And it makes you question. So, the Victorian period of vampires I love it. I love I love the Hammer period, and I love all that. I love the imagery. I'm down with it. I've always loved it. I think it's a beautiful period for the vampire, actually. And this is why, because the vampire in the Victorian period is a gentleman, is a beautiful lady, and they have a sense of agency and sovereignty. They have a sense of higher intelligence and love for the arts. They love vitality. They love life. They are actually living and not going to die. They are not the walking dead like the humans around them. They are the ones that live in the realm. And this is conceptually their realm.
Well, I mean, I guess, but underneath there's always this beast. It's like that's a facade sometimes.
But how's that different from any of us? I mean, we can look at crimes of passion at any moment and see how destructive people are. I mean, just look at the news stories right now.
You can be, and then you can choose not to. You have a choice, though.
Yeah,
you can choose not to be violent.
Yeah, and see, this is why Anne Rice wrote Louis.
Yeah.
Louis did not want to consume humans. He could not do it, and so he did rats. And he could live off of rats. And then, Lestat was just totally offended by this. And, because he thought, and so Louis could have eaten cows or anything else, but he did not want to eat humans.
I think
just
for
because,
art.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Jer. Go ahead.
Just because he could survive on rats doesn't mean he was living life to his fullest.
But I also wanted to say something like about our modern world with eating meat. You know, we've always consumed meat, but people had a respect. They would pray and thank the soul of the animal.
Mhm.
They had a ritual. They just didn't want to slaughter it for the sake. And we actually don't have that relationship and that holy relationship with food anymore.
And see, this is where the vampire comes in, especially in, say, so I'm just putting it into the Victorian period again, where we get our most people are familiar with that period of vampirism. They love their prey. You get monsters within them. So Lestat is conceptually a monster. He was ravenous, and so was Claudia. She got her dark gift and she became very ravenous and disrespectful. Well, we see this in humans too. But Louis had the reverence. Louis had such a reverence that he was basically like the vegan version of a vampire. And there are others in the lexicon of Anne Rice's vampires. And remember, her stories all intertwine because there's a lot of stuff out there about Jesus being a vampire.
Do you remember in the Vampire Lestat, we actually realized that Lestat was actually whacking really bad humans? He was actually more specific than Louis knew. Don't you remember that?
Yes, I do. And that comes into that kind of whole vigilante. This is a very important
serial killer killing the serial killer.
Right, but I wouldn't even consider him a serial killer because he's a predator, and humans are the prey. But to take out the bad ones was merciful. Was like,
and doing a favor for humans who weren't bad.
Yes, so that's like thinning the stock, and it's we could see that in a golden way. And this is why this becomes less the story of monsters, because conceptually we could cast our gaze to the idea that humans are really the monsters. And I think if you're reading between the lines of some of these narratives, we see this just the way that Shaun of the Living Dead, they brought Shaun of the Dead brought that whole concept to life about he was just in a world of the living dead, of the walking dead, of people just mindlessly going about their lives, not paying attention. And then the zombie outbreak happened, and how they braided this idea of what it is to be a conscious, living, engaged person in presence in your life, as opposed to those just going through the motions. And this is really pre the world we're in now, because everyone looks down at their phones. Everyone's always, they're not there, and their attention spans are becoming less. The frontal cortex is becoming decayed. There's stories out there right now from scientists talking about this. And so this becomes a way deeper narrative, way juicier. And so I think that for people that just enjoy horror films, we've given lots of ideas of great stuff to look at. But for people that want to look a little deeper into ideas of what this really is, there's a lot to chew on. Again, there's places for everyone to park. And the thing is, for me, is I think it's important to actually make your way back into the past. And this is not just the past of what we have written, but this is the past of a space that we cannot actually access through academia. This is a place where you find yourself in the wee hours, in the liminal hours, in a daydream, in an out-of-body experience. This is a place you meditate upon, and it will come and it will take you and show you what's going on. There is an angelic host behind this, and I believe that this is all braided into the modern culture.
Yeah, but okay, so what's really interesting is because I originally want to talk about like blue bloods and their link bloodage. Does that mean that they do the things they do because survival? They have to? Is it similar to us eating meat? They're just being greedy and
Well, let's define
sacrificing children, possibly.
Well, see, look at the real monsters out there that are humans doing that. You know what I'm saying?
They are.
The trade. And so this is why. So what is a blue blood? So let's get to that.
Right. It's a royal, or at least they believe they have a very elite, pure royal bloodline that's above commoners.
And see, this is part of that misinformation. The blue bloods are very particular. They're a different species altogether. That's why there's this whole blue blood. So there's we could get
this ties into the Rh negatives too, and the copper in the blood.
My ex-husband's an Rh negative.
The blue bloods. I mean, go ahead, Niish. Sorry.
No, Jared, go on, because I have.
I'm the thing that I've always heard is that that I've always thought of it as that they have an abundance of copper in their blood, which tints it more blue, and that's a feature of the Rh
it's
negative.
Physically blue.
Physically blue, yeah.
When it hits the oxygen.
But
until it hits oxygen.
Until it hits oxygen, yeah.
Yeah, but our blood, isn't that the same with any blood? That it's a different color until
it's more of an aqua.
Okay.
I mean, it's more greenish blue, I think, than blue.
Okay.
Blue. I don't know. It's just a story that I have in my head. It might not be right, but I always think of blue bloods. I think of what's that Hindu goddess?
Oh yes, Shiva, not Shiva.
Not Shiva.
There's a whole bunch of them.
The one that's blue though with the red tongue.
Yeah, Tara. No, oh geez, we can easily look this up.
I know. I can't think of it though. It's so sad.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vishnu. No, there's the
Kali,
Indians.
Kali.
Yeah,
it's her Yuga, for Christ's sake. I can't remember it.
Oh, that's right. And the Indians, the Hindu stuff has a lot of blue people.
Yes. Yeah.
Gods.
I think the blue bloods were a race of beings. At one point.
I do too. I think it's a different species.
Okay. I don't know.
So do they need adrenochrome? Is that the idea? Like, do they need something in the human blood?
I don't think the Hindu gods ate people or drank blood.
Okay.
Well,
I just mean blue bloods in general.
Kali was ruthless. She wore Kali had the
thank you
necklace of heads and stuff, and
it's true. The other notable aspect I'll say about Rh negatives is that if an Rh negative woman manages to get a fertilized, if a fetus if a Rh positive male impregnates an Rh negative female,
and their baby's Rh positive, she will attack the baby. I think it's a second pregnancy.
Whatever a pregnancy it is, her body will attack and dissolve, cannibalize that Rh positive baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even in the womb,
there's a treatment. There's a treatment they do for it now to prevent that. I can't remember what it is exactly.
I'm just talking generalities here. It's interesting.
Does anyone, Jer? I think maybe you put this somewhere I could watch. There was that series, and it's a foreign series, but it dealt with blue bloods and red bloods, and they were killing it's something to do with I think it's Sicilian, the Benedate. I can't remember, but it was really, really good. I think it was an Italian series. It was so good, and it dealt with blue bloods as a predatorial, like almost like vampires, but they were predatorial, and that was the whole series, was killing them, and it was very much in line with like the Benedate and the Strigoi and all this.
It's not ringing a bell, but I will look around and see what I can find.
Yeah, and if anyone in the chat knows what I'm talking about, I can't remember. It may have been on Netflix, like the international Netflix stuff. I could have seen it.
It's so interesting how many things that are dualistic are represented by red and blue. Those two colors.
Incredibly so.
When you were talking about that, it reminded me of the movie Tenet. Did you see that movie?
Remind me, give us the synopsis.
It was Christopher Nolan's movie about the shit from the future, which had negative entropy and it was going backwards in time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So things that were going forward in time were blue and backwards were red, or vice versa. I don't remember the colors exactly, but if you were in the space that was going in the forward direction, remember they had the chamber you could go and you'd go in reverse. It was the world going backwards. Remember there was that room? Yeah. On one side was red, the other side was blue. And in the final scene where they're fighting, they all had tags, and half of them had tags that were red and half had tags that were blue, because the one team was moving backwards through that skirmish. If you haven't seen this movie, it probably sounds crazy, but it was a crazy movie. Anyway, it's just something I thought of, that the duality is always represented by red and blue, and to have red blood versus blue bloods is another aspect of that.
And we have seen that play down into like social structures too. The
Democrats and Republicans.
Well, and like Melissa was saying, with like the aristocratic or royal set, and so like royal family and the poor dichotomy, right? And so that's a reality too. And see, this is the thing, and this is why we have to look at everywhere we see this information and kind of try and collate it together and see what the bigger picture is.
And they also represent the chakra colors. You've got your Ajna chakra is blue, the indigo. Right? Third eye, and your base chakra is red.
Interesting.
Your root chakra.
Is there any special powers that the blue bloods think they have, or they have? Is there myths about blue bloods with special powers?
The only one I've heard of,
I'm consuming. Even?
The only one I've ever heard of is that the blue bloods, if they're Rh negative, are able to retain a portion of their memories when they reincarnate.
Interesting.
Or their prior life.
Kind of consume their power.
It allows them to further their wealth and fortune in the next life. They could bury shit somewhere and they'll know where it is when they wake up again. When they respawn,
They pass it on. They infiltrate their grandchildren and they go and dig it out.
Yeah, when they respawn.
Rothschilds. They're like, hey,
exactly, Rothschilds.
Yeah. and see, this is that whole idea of the bloodline, and also why pretenders were put in as well, because sometimes the bloodline goes astray. And they need to, say right now, everybody's
like a changeling.
Well, it's like that, but sometimes, like, say, contemporarily right now, everyone's onto the game of the Rothschilds and all those people, all those bad people out there. And so it would behoove them to move some blood through other means. So when I saw, so for an example, although I've never recognized those dirty Windsors as royals, I mean, I know they're royals, but I've never recognized them as line of Christ, because Christ is a bloodline, and that's a holy, sacred bloodline. I just don't care what people say.
Merovingians are the Christ bloodline.
And so the what they call themselves now, the Windsors, are not of that. No. The Merovingians, the Plantagenets, these people are. But anyway, so I digress there. What I'm saying is, it was a very wise move of Queen Elizabeth to insist that Harry so this whole thing with Harry and that broad, whatever her name, Meghan
Meghan
Markle.
Meghan Markle.
It was a very intentional move. This was not a love thing. This was not, they made all that. That's all narrative. And what they needed to do was get the common folk off of their trail and
Right.
the trail of their seed and their bloodline. Because what happens, we see with Versailles and intense revolutions of different times, is the common folk will come with the pitchforks and the, they will come and they will wipe out a whole bloodline. They will wipe out a whole line. And so it's very important. And we see this with stories like, well, we can go back to Egypt, right? Put the baby on the, put the baby on the raft on the Nile
Right.
and get the sacred seed of the line into safety. And so we have the narrative of the fostering, of the adopted, etc. So what the queen did with Harry was try to get the trail off. So first of all, he marries a Pock. Now we know that the Windsors are extremely racist, and I'm saying that as someone that is so tired of that word, but that is not something, if times were good, that would be accepted. It would not be accepted. This was not a marriage of love. It was a marriage of moving the seed of their line and getting it into the safest place possible, which was into the womb of a BIPOC person, and then disengaging that from the royal lineage. So he had to step down from being next in line. They had to detach themselves from the royal house, etc., because the whole world is onto this gig. And so the line has to live. Now, with modern day transhumanism, you can bet that the seed bank is at play here. And I can tell you the seed bank is under the Vatican, in the Vatican vault, the real Vatican vault, not where people park and can, it's way deep into the Vatican vault. Just like we have a seed bank in Norway, there's a seed bank under the ground at Vatican City as well. But this narrative with Harry and Meghan is all about that.
It's like
narrative.
A decoy.
Well, it's get that sacred bloodline somewhere else. They're going to come for the royals. They're going to off with their head, French Revolution style. It's
doesn't
a potential.
Doesn't it water it down? Doesn't it water the bloodline down to do that?
It already is. Harry's not Charles's son.
Harry is the royal blood he gets is from Diana's side.
And she goes right up to the Stuarts. And I think Catherine does too.
Yeah, she's a Stuart, and she goes into the Plantagenets. It's all there to be seen. And
it's the 13th family stuff.
She's the real royal there. So and they did that intentionally. She did not want to, they made her do that as well. They needed to bring that bloodline back in. And of course this was why
the Windsors were too inbred.
The Windsors are
at
not even royal.
Faces.
Yeah.
They're not. They're crypto royal.
Exactly. And so they needed to bring this back in, and they did. There was some seeded through, but they needed a more a potent, a real source of that blood. And so bringing Lady Diana in was, I think, the main choice. That would have been my choice, looking around at everyone that was recognized with that blood at that time.
That is interesting because
everyone
pretends that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the blood's scattered all over. It's all over the realm, and that when they bagged and tagged everyone, they have found everyone with the blood that is the real bloodlines that we're talking about.
My mother's side goes up to the Plantagenets. They were wealthy when they came over to England, or from England to America. That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm all in there too with the Merovingians.
There's a lot of people who don't realize that they go up. because their early settlers were like from those families that came to the New World.
Right. Yes.
There's quite a few who have no clue.
Well, if you just look at, I mean, there's literally, so if you just take oh, I don't know, anyone from that period, and that it gave birth, it's thousands of people. So from, say, the Mayflower, so the Winthrops own the Mayflower and the Anne and all that. The Winthrops
Mhm.
are my line, and
Mhm.
and they, and then, you know, I had Mayflower people as well, but my people own those lines too. And
Mhm.
the there's thousands of people that descend from these people. There's thousands. And so it's not as uncommon as people think, but it's not common at the same time. Like Charlemagne, they say 1 in 6 Brits goes to Charlemagne. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot,
It's a
considering how
lot.
far we go back to get to Charlemagne. So you've got to think the bloodline is scattered around. That's why they needed to
Mhm.
do a dragnet.
Right.
And if you have that in your blood, you are definitely,
I
it's
think
in your
there's
chart, and they know it.
there's people who are more potent than others, like, but because I'm like mixed, half mixed with Eastern European, I wouldn't be as potent as my grandmother and her mother. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all in how this stuff is recessive and has moved down. There's like
Yeah.
there's a whole thing here, and this is why the Bene Gesserit in the Dune narrative is so important in understanding some of this stuff, in my opinion.
Mhm. It's really it's kind of fascinating, but the blue blood thing is interesting because
It's the
I don't know. And
Winthrops. I think I was saying
well,
Windsor too much. The Winthrops that
right.
own those boats. That's mine.
Right. Because like a lot of people think Kate Middleton is a commoner and she's not. They
No,
thought Diane. They're
Kate
like Diane is a
Middleton.
commoner. They think they're commoners because they're not the actual royal family. I'm like, no, they go to royal bloodlines.
The Middletons, which are mine, the Middletons are totally royal.
Absolutely.
This is so people want to argue about this stuff, but when you get into the real genealogy and you get away from all the misinformation, especially the misinformation that goes on with these narratives of these different species, and you get into the real people that are doing the real work, that are not influenced by these pretenders, by these monsters that are running everything, and they are monsters that are running everything. They are dark side demonic monsters that are running everything. Those things are for real. And see, this is why I'm saying the vampire, if you start to understand what it could be, the darkest thing around us could be the preacher at the pulpit, is the dark pope. The real monsters are clergy, and they're in the
Unseen.
church, not the real Christians out there, not the ones, but the churchians through all the different religions. I'm talking all of them, from Islam to wherever, tend to be the ones that are the real monsters. And the ones that are
Mhm.
not monsters are painted out to look like monsters. It is a reverse realm. It's the Janus realm. It's this realm where we are not in a place of eternal glory. We are dead in this place. We are the
Mm.
ghosts here. We are the walking dead here. This realm is that realm. And for some reason, we whitewash it, and I don't mean that politically. We whitewash it into thinking that it's something other than it really is. And it is a place where you are not going to stay. We're transient here. We're ghosts in the machine.
Mhm. And so why do people just they get obviously we get locked up in here as reality and we think this is it, if we die that's the end, like that's why we're afraid, or maybe that's where the fascination with the vampire comes from, because we want to we're scared to die, we don't know what's beyond there because we've been locked into this dead world as you say, ghost world.
Well, what else would we be if we're in a place where we know we die? What are we? I mean, We're the Walking Dead, the unwalking.
If we knew what to expect when we die, we would not. If we knew there was life after death, or that this was just a playground for experiencing physicality, you wouldn't live your life meaningfully if you knew that it didn't matter. There's a reason for the forgetting.
The amnesia that we're
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the key. And Jerry, you just totally got to the heart of all this. This is all about amnesia, or if we want to look at the legal term, in absentia. And which I love that. A lot of people love that term. You'll find it in poetry, but you'll find it in absentia is a legal term, and you have to use in as part of the term. But it's all tied in, and that's what makes this particular topic and this thing that you're onto, Melissa, so juicy, because you can go into so many different directions and still be talking about the main subject matter, because it is kind of underpinning the realm that we walk in, that we think we are conscious in, that we think we live in, and where everything feels really important. And it ties into what else could this be? Why is this? And if we become awakened, right? If we become awakened, lucid, we rise into our knowing. We rise out of amnesia. We are resurrected.
It feels like you read my mind, because I was going to say, what about those of us who remember or have this idea since we're really, really little? Because I've always had this knowing that there's like, this wasn't it.
Exactly. And part of the game here is the wiping of our knowing, of our memory. I believe wholeheartedly. I try to stay away from that word believe, because it is not a good word. I have a deep conviction in the idea that I know I don't die. I know that I am something that is passing through this space. I'm wafting through like everyone else, but I engage in that idea. I pickle in that, if you will, because I enjoy the space as well. I enjoy the beautiful things I have here. I enjoy the beautiful people I've encountered here. I love being here. I don't like all the other crap, but like Jerry's saying, it's also it's guiding us in like a moral sense, in a weird way,
Right.
to there's causality here.
Is there power in being grateful and thinking like, I love being here? There's things I love being here. Does that ward some of these things off, do you think?
I do, because what are you doing? You're light, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Right? You are empowering yourself. You are becoming connected with the Most High. You are becoming connected with that which you are, which is the spirit that houses you. And or this, I can't remember exactly how to term this, but with that spirit, the spirit of us, the flame, the there's the black flame, there's the yellow flame, there's the blue flame, there's the orange flame, there's the 7 days, the 7 rays, the 7 ways. I mean, we could just start cutting this cake in a million different directions.
So then it would make sense why these vampiric figures want to make us fear. Not only does it give them what they want in the bloodline, it also takes us away from that gratefulness and being happy here, and kind of traps us where they want. So we forget. We don't realize what it is that we're supposed to be here for.
Well, I'm postulating that it's not the vampires that are the bad guys.
Oh, it's us.
Well, maybe you are not what you think you are. What if you're a vampire? And again,
I could be at some levels. I could be using energy from people and not know it, or I could be like,
but you're still coming
a
from
cow
that
vampire.
girl. But you're still
Where's
coming
my
from
filet mignon?
Formidable. Perspective, but if you empower yourself and you engage
Mhm.
in what you believe truly to be good and righteous and true, and you
Mhm.
act in that way, you are rising above, and hopefully you're rising above instinctuality. This is where the
Right.
beast
That kind
comes
of
in.
base chakra,
Yeah,
less
the reptilian
that.
brain, all
Yeah.
that. That's all the basal stuff. And that's the stuff that could be considered the darker side. And this is not the realm of the vampires we know it. The vampires we know it now or at least the Victorian vampire, outside of the crawling down walls and stuff. The vampire that we see through Hammer films and all this is a gentleman, this is a scholar, this is one that loves art and beauty and higher things. This is the
He wants to
one
stay here longer.
that, well, because they're not here really, they have gotten the dark gift, and the dark gift, part of the dark gift is moving out of this space. What do we do in this space? We come here, we live, and we have to die. Dying is part of it. Death is considered the dark gift. That's why that is part of the narrative of the vampire. You must die to rise into your eternity. And this becomes a very tricky slope when you're looking at transhumanism, cryonics,
Mhm.
and robotics and all that, because they're just like synthetic wombs. What's real and what's not real? The real
But
vampire,
they don't really die in the same sense that we would think of death, though, do
but
they?
they once did. Remember, they were once human.
And they die and they transform into something else.
They rose into their eternity, and through that they were coming out of amnesia, and they gained these powers.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because I was going to say, like, because the rest of us just die and we don't live and we just go
Well,
away, but
but
they
in
come
the
back.
scripture, girl, in the scripture, when we are risen again, when we're called, we rise into all the glory of God, and
That's right.
we are imbued with all that. And that's a big deal.
Hmm.
And if you start to take away the idea of the vampire, you start to see that these similarities are very, very intermeshed.
I always just saw the vampires. They were actually trying to take the power of God into their own hand, and they were kind of going against God. That idea. That's how I always saw them. That's why I'm questioning this.
Well, because that's baked into the narrative, but one could say
Right.
that about a lot of things. I have to step away to get my charger because my computer's on
No, no worries. No worries.
6%, so I'll
We're
be
gonna
right
tie
back.
up in
Gonna
we're
wrap.
gonna
Yeah,
tie
it's
up in a
gonna
few
wrap.
minutes, anyways.
Well,
But
I literally don't want it to die,
Well,
so I'll
go.
just be
Go.
go
right
ahead.
back.
Go ahead. No worries. Yeah, it's really interesting, this idea of transcendence, but that it's always been presented in the books and the novels and the movie as more of a curse, not like a real death. Then you go on to God, like even in Bram Stoker's Dracula movie, they kill each other, and she has to kill Dracula, and they have to finally let go and go and die a real death, and then they're reunited in heaven. That's the idea. That's the only reason I question it, because it is a narrative, and she's presenting a really fascinating one and an interesting one. Oh, we're gonna wait for Niish to come back. I'm not sure, but the blue blood thing, I find it interesting, just because I don't know. Apparently, we all come from blue blood somewhere.
Maybe.
Like, we're all tied to something. But I find that the switching of the bloodlines kind of interesting, just to kind of look like they're the woke royal family. I think that's why they did it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so I'm back.
crypto royalty. Yeah, they just
Crypto
usurped
royalty.
power,
Well, also,
and then
I
hid
think
the timeline so no one could backtrack it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure this gets into this chat, is that one of the things you'll notice in the mythos of the vampire is that they, except for Anne Rice brings us in with Lestat later, because Lestat is really the dark one in that narrative. In her vampires, he's the narcissist, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the vampire lore through a lot of time has been in the shadows. They're in the. They even have that show In the Shadows, right? So the thing is, they are not dealing or coming from a place of hubris. Therefore, they traditionally are not ones seeking to be in the light, the public light, and seen. They don't care about it. They don't have hubris like that. They don't have to be the
Right.
famous star. They like to walk amongst everyone and have anonymity. And there's and the reason for that is there's power in that.
Oh my
And
God. I was literally just saying that in my mind. There's power in anonymity. It's like you read my mind again.
maybe I'm a vampire. And
I think
so
you are.
anyway, so I want to point that out. There's this lack of hubris. And the only time we really see the hubris conceptually, well, I mean, it's narrow, it's in some of these, but you do really see it in Louis. I mean, in Lestat, and maybe a little bit in a couple other characters. You see the hubris in vampires, the dark vampires that have gone astray. Well, we see that in the human culture, and this need to be famous for nothing. Fame, fame, fame. I want to be in the light. All this stuff of being seen. I need to be seen. I need to be seen. And this is a very important thing to get your head around in culture as it is. And this is very Western world culture. This is very West world, because a lot of other cultures and our ancient cultures weren't so big into being so, I'm the CEO of this, or I'm the lead singer of this. It was not like that. This is very
They were more humble.
this is how far humans have fallen. And I do want to put out there that the humans are the fallen. And Randy Moss, actually, not Randy Moss, good Lord. Oh, strike
I
that. Randy Moggins once proposed that.
I think that's kind of why I get a little stressed out about modernism, is it seems like there's too much of it. Like, nobody can just be an actor. You have to, like, rearrange your face with plastic surgery. Nobody can just, it's not like it was even when I was younger. Even in 40 years, it's so different. And they don't just act, they do the craziest stuff for attention now. Like, it seems like you have to be crazier and crazier just to have people even want to watch your show or engage in any. And most people don't even want to have intellectual commentary, and I get stressed out about it.
Well, nor they have attention span to actually have a conversation or listen.
And so what is this picture painting? People are becoming more monstrous.
Yeah.
They're literally
becoming more with their base needs. And
yes. And with the way that people are creating their, this too much over surgery. They're becoming monstrous. They are all looking like monsters. The hubris is out of control. The need to control and the power over thing is very prevalent in the world we live in, and it's somehow the way it's all been maneuvered is what people want, so it's respected, and it's so stupid at this level that you can put on a white doctor's jacket and a stethoscope and say, I'm an expert, and you will have people listen to you. Like, you can have the real doctor or the real expert not in that and say, like, a tracksuit of some sort, and put someone Joe Schmo, right, and put him in that outfit. So we start to look at what's the idea of costume.
I want to bring something up.
Bring it up, Jer.
that what you were just talking about how people are becoming more feral, essentially, which they're becoming more animalistic. They're living more through their red chakra, through their root chakra. They're harnessed, they're embodying their physicality, the material world, which again brings up the whole red blue dichotomy, that the red is the animalistic side, where blue is the more divine. That's all I was going to say.
I would challenge the idea of feral, because I like the idea of feral, and I think we should be more feral.
I forgot how you put it, but what you were not
Yeah,
necessarily.
yeah, I'm with you. I just want to make it clear that I feel like that's got a
It's
lot of
kind of
different
cold and
nuance.
reptilian.
Well, yeah. Well, you're being, if you think about it energetically, you're being driven down away from divinity.
Away from connecting to divinity.
Yes, you're being driven away from your connection to, I'm not going to say divinity, I don't believe that. It's your connection to the cloud, to the collective consciousness is the way I look at it.
Okay.
You're being disconnected from
the life source.
From everyone else.
From your shining.
Yes.
This is the whole thing why we have, this is such a big deal in mythology too, is the shining, the halos, the light, the when we look at like say ascended or holy figures, we're looking at them in levitation with an inner light, and this idea of illuminated, enlightened. When did illuminated and being enlightened become a satanic thing? When is that a bad thing? And see, this is how perverse everything's become. We should seek illumination. We should, in my opinion, I mean, I think one should come to the light of knowing and be able to re-engage in everything that has fallen into the sicker, darker things, and rise out of it, and see things as they really are, and deal in a world that is dealing with the illuminated realities of being. This is shining. This is that thing inside of you. This is holy. And this is the idea of the holy sacred fire, whether it be the black flame or the white flame or the red flame, the white sun, the black sun. But the black sun plays into all this too. The hole at the center of the sun, which is the portal from here to there. And, this continues to spiral, but this is all this same tale that we're talking about, and how perversely misshapen it's become. And again, I think it's the humans that are the monstrous ones here. And I mean that in a sense that I'm not saying that as I'm not a human. I'm saying I think that we have sunken so low.
We have allowed it.
Yeah. We are rotting in the decay of hubris here. It's stinchy, it's gross, they're eating each other, and this is what's happening. This is not attractive. It is not the higher world.
I think that's why I get so depressed, because I go out into the world and I'm like,
And once you become illuminated, you cannot be manipulated.
Yeah. Like I couldn't work. I was working a job and I just couldn't sell their credit cards. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do all this brainwashing and all these courses. I just, the guy, it was awful. I just walked out and basically flipped the bird.
And see, that's that feral rebel gene that I love so much, and we can tie that right into all this. That's that beautiful thing in us. That's your light shining.
I cried at first, but then I was like, fuck you. It's like, yeah, that era really is prison. Is working for corporations and thinking you're they're going to take care of you, or you're going to have a pension, or you're going to have this, and sucking your soul right out of you and making you do all these courses, trying to brainwash you for whatever objective they've decided that they're going to have for the company this time.
It is very, when I started to watch the corporate takeover, and remember, we're looking at legal language here. And this is just the legal world. Jesus, talk about vampires.
Yeah, talk about selling your soul. Although I don't believe you can sell your soul, but they're making you think you can.
It is a terrible, terrible thing, in my opinion. But this is the corporate reality, and that corporations are entities, and entities have the power, just like they're doing with some of the now robots, like Sophia's been granted this status. They will grant it to all of them, and we're looking at a whole different reality. And wait till the new vampire tales come out that involve all this kind of stuff, the way that the story is going to twist. Let me tell you right here and now, there is a twist that you cannot imagine coming in this tale that we are living in right now. There is an unbelievable twist coming, and
So I'm going to be shocked.
Everyone's going to be surprised by it. It's written. It's a great story, and it's going to be grab your popcorn.
Wow.
You're not going to see it coming.
Niish, you're leaving us on a cliffhanger here.
This has been really great. Jerry, I am so sorry. I always do this to you.
I just want to,
She's a
before we
teen.
doing
chat
it
out,
for all these years to Jer.
we've been chatting out. I know you guys are doing a new show and stuff. I'll get you
Just
to
if you just
rep
take a
for
breath
that.
after every paragraph.
I want to know what okay, number one, what got you into vampires and what's your favorite film? I think I already know Niish's, and I think it's the same as mine, but what made you interested in vampire? What film do you like the best before we sign out?
Who, me?
Go, you can start, Jer.
Well, I already told you what got me into vampires was Anne Rice stuff.
Perfect.
Obviously, I had read vampire lore and comic books and whatnot as a kid. I knew the concept. I really enjoyed True Blood too, by the way. I never didn't mention that.
Oh, I
think that
love True Blood, Jer.
Really popularized vampire lore into modern culture a lot more than, say, Bram Stoker's Dracula. So Anne Rice got me into it. My favorite movie is Blade. Believe it or not, Blade is my favorite vampire movie. It's such a great movie.
Niish?
I want to hear. So, Jerry, thank you for bringing True Blood in, because I forgot about that. I love True Blood. Jerry, what makes Blade your favorite?
It's just such a well-made movie. The first Blade, I love the story. I love the fact that there's ancient fictitious lore brought into it, which may or may not be fictitious. The whole idea of the ancient vampire god and all that. I love that aspect. I love the action. I love the martial arts. I was a Blade comic book fan, so to see it come to life was amazing. It was just awesome. It still is. I watch it all the time. I've seen that movie like 20 times. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. It is good. I'm a fan of the genre, obviously.
Yeah.
In general. And I already said mine. The 79 Klaus Kinski, Werner Herzog, that Nosferatu is a masterpiece. And it's so deep. It's so rich. It's so incredibly beautiful, and everything that most people complain about with it, it moves too slow. All this, I could go ad nauseum, of course, on this, but you need the pace to understand the greater narrative, and people today don't have the patience for it. You need that 20-minute scene of Harker getting to Dracula's castle. You need that. You need to understand
essential.
Expanse of time. We're talking about time. Vampires are tied intricately into time. They don't play by the same rules, and time is something we didn't really talk about, but that film is beautifully done. Everyone looks beautiful. The details, the soundtrack, it's a masterwork.
Yeah, and I agree. That's one of my favorites. I used to, when I was younger, love Bram Stoker's Dracula, done by Coppola, and there's still things I do like about it. But as I've gotten older, I like, it's why a lot of the films you're talking about, I don't watch a lot of modern films, because I like slower paced films, because it's just who I am. I've always been that way ever since I'm little. And one of the things, all the things that you said about the movie is true, but they also make the land a character, and you're not just outside in some shot and it's supposed to be action. You're literally going into the land and going in this inner world. And as Jonathan goes closer to the castle, the landscape isn't just there. It's a living presence. And you can feel it as he goes by the waterway. They're also shooting this in the 70s in actual European locations that are probably the gypsy scene. Those are real gypsies. Like, everything's so real.
Yeah, you just said, yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. It is something I don't think you can't get that back now. It's
No.
a masterpiece.
Once that
Yeah.
wall fell, that's it, man.
The like you said too, the landscape is a character, and when we start looking at it in this way, at that slant, it takes on a different connotation for somebody that is able to sit through and look at a good story, well done. And it is also beautiful in the creepiest of ways. It encompasses the best of folk horror too.
Yeah. And I would recommend, there is I had the DVD that had the commentary. There is a commentary version free on YouTube. You can get it with Werner Herzog actual doing commentary to the movie. It's really good. And it's awesome to get his ideas about American versus European films and what he had to do to get things done and where things were filmed and what it meant to him and different shots. So it's out there on YouTube.
Go see it, people, and see it in the night.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I thank you very much, and I hope you guys come back again, because I'm sure, Niish, you are way more versed than me in vampires, even though it's always as well been a favorite thing of mine. But I don't want to keep you guys too long. It is late in the night, the vampire hours, and I just want to thank you guys for coming by and let everybody know where they can find you.
thecosmicsalon.com. I'm on Patreon as well, and I'll let Jerry talk about our new show.
Got no sound, my Jer.
It's your fault for saying my typing was loud.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. It's my fault. It's my fault for typing. Anyway, the new show is called Airplane Mode. There are links everywhere that we are. You just go to Rumble. Our channel is going to be on Rumble. It's called Airplane Mode Show. If you search out Airplane Mode Show, you'll find the new channel. I streamed this show to there tonight, so you can find it there. And it's going to be about current events, esoteric stuff, whatever. It's going to be Nish and I, no guests initially. We're talking about maybe doing once a month. We'll increase frequency as we get more comfortable with it. It's going to be real laid back. We're going to talk no set time or anything. Obviously, a set time that we do the show, but not a 2-hour show or anything. We'll talk as long as we have something to talk about.
And guaranteed to have laughs, Jerry. We're going to be laughing.
Laughs galore. And hopefully Igor will make a showing. I had...
exactly.
I don't have it written down here. I've got it somewhere else. I do have it. Hold on. I could tell you right now. I've got the first show planned, by the way. It'll take too much time. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI, prompt theory, AI psychosis, ChatGPT psychosis, that kind of stuff. It'll be an interesting show.
It's going to be juicy, everyone. I hope to see you there. Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, I'm going to put you guys out. You don't have to stick around, and I'm going to close out the show. I thank you guys so much for giving your time to the Velvet Bite Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa and Jerry and everyone that joined in. It's a pleasure, Melissa. I always will join in on anything you're doing.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Here we are, the end of the show. I thank you guys so much. And remember, this show has, and you'll hear fireworks outside. It's Pioneer Day here in Utah. Not that I really celebrate it, but you can go and see the get a complimentary article that pairs with this show at melissadonharris.substack.com. It's over there. And of course, the website is melissadonharris.com. I'm not going to keep you guys too long. I thank you so much for being part of this show. It's a passion of mine that I always wanted to do, is talk about this type of literature and vampires and folklore. So It's a small audience now. I hope you guys keep coming every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern and join me and help me build it up, and we can get together and do this. Thumbs up, subscribe wherever you are, Rumble. All the links are on the website, melissadonharris.com. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Until next time on the Velvet Bite Radio.
Broadcasting from the crypt. Welcome to Velvet Bite Radio.
You've entered Velvet Bite Radio, my friends, where the undead speak and the forgotten bite back. I'm your host, Melissa Dawn Harris, writer, researcher, and devoted wanderer through vampire folklore, history, and film. Each week, we descend into the crypt of culture to uncover the myths, monsters, and meaning behind the vampire's eternal